I've been an entrepreneur doing e-commerce for the past 5 years now, and everything that I've been told, and basically you've been told too online, is a lie. Let me explain. Okay, so from the very first minute I laid my eyes on entrepreneurship on social media when I was 17 years old, I was painted this image. And it's the same image that most of you young, arrogant, confident, hungry men are picturing right now. That image is Lamborghinis, planes, big Shopify dashboard screenshots, which I have, and all kinds of other stuff, overnight successes, mailbox money, all that bananas. It's not real. Let me keep going. Of course, now I'm saying this, but in the moment when I was seeing all these things online and people succeeding, I lived off this wild vision that I could actually just open a Shopify store, run some ads, and make a bunch of money. And like any teenager, I was stoked. And then it gets way worse before it gets any better. I grind for a year or two, almost no success happens, then COVID comes around, me and Anthony from this channel launch an e-commerce brand, and boom, we explode. And this entire arrogance and ego that I had in my head was finally being fed with all kinds of success. We're talking 6-figure months, company dinners, I'm trying to learn how to golf. At one point, I seriously thought that I was going to become the next Elon Musk or next Mark Zuckerberg and sell my e-commerce business for $1 million and start a software company and become rich as balls in 2 years. Then COVID ended. For the entirety of 2021, I had this arrogance that really fueled me to do things. And I do think it's important as an entrepreneur, male, female, whatever you want, to have a bit of arrogance and confidence in the beginning. But all of that, set me up for a very rude wake-up call when COVID ended, because you see, I started an e-commerce business, a successful one, during a time where an 11-year-old boy with his dad's credit card and a Shopify account could do pretty much the same thing, give or take, in my honest opinion. Interest rates were 0%, everyone was at home just buying stuff online, and everyone was glued to Facebook and mainly TikTok, which my brand was very early to. Therefore, this entire time, I thought this was the norm. In reality, people have been waiting decades for this exact moment. So while I was 17, 18, 19 years old making all this money thinking, oh, this is gonna happen forever, most people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s were like, all right, this is the first time this has happened in a while. Let me capitalize for the next 2 years and then move on. I had no idea. So then 2022 got a bit harder for us. We had to tighten our belts, we had to fire all these agencies, no more stupid company dinners or flights, and really just kind of lean out our operations. And that led to a much more profitable year, but lower revenue year than 2021. And that's fine by us, because in 2021, we were moving so fast and so aggressively that I had no idea what we were doing. Our P&L was messed up and being managed by the wrong accountant, so we thought we were making X, but we actually were making Y, and there was a big gap between those two numbers. And in those key moments in 2021, the only real thing that mattered was getting X money to pay for Y thing and keep fueling the fire. And like I said, since interest rates were 0%, no joke, I could go onto Google, search money for e-commerce, and get my hands on 50K, 80K, 100K. I'm not joking, right? And so you can't do that nowadays, but I didn't know that. And so in that moment, it led on to us taking on a bunch of debt that we shouldn't have taken on. And during our diligence process, both internally and with these lenders, which was literally just a Google Doc, the question of when and how we plan to pay back the debt never really came into consideration, right? Because usually when you're taking out a line of credit or getting a merchant cash advance, you are thinking, okay, I need 40K for this inventory. In 2.5 months, I will sell through this inventory and then pay this back and have XYZ revenue, etc. That wasn't really thought through in my company. It was just oh shit, we need this for this, let's go. And then sales would double, and then we would just keep going. And it got us into this hole now where it's 2023. Q1 starts amazing, right? I have 2 companies now. I have a marketing agency and I have an e-commerce business. Both go pretty well in Q1 this year. Q2, and right about now, these last 2 months of May and June have been some of the hardest months of my life, and it's why I'm recording this video. I've had to invest my personal funds, we've been cash flow negative, people are leaving my agency and calling us all these stupid names. It's crazy and it's a lot to manage, and I want to share this video because entrepreneurship is not what you've been told, and you've been told this a million times as well by Gary Vee and all these other people, but just in case you forget and you want to take it from someone who's just an average kind of Joe Blow and not, Gary Vee, he's not lying. There's no reason why he would lie about that. As a side note, during all these crazy revenue months and everything, my personal income on an annual level barely actually moved. And this is also another huge misconception that you've been told. Like I said, when you first look at entrepreneurship online, the first thing that you think of is making tons of money. And you do make tons of money, but as an entrepreneur, you are the last person to typically get paid. Now, I know in Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki says, pay yourself first, blah, blah, blah. And that's very true. Like, of course, we pay ourselves. But in most cases, either at an e-commerce business or a huge venture-backed startup, you get paid last, right? You have your employees, your inventory, your investors if you have any, you're like dead last. And so I've spoken to several founders who run e-commerce brands that do 7 or 8 figures per year, and their salaries, whatever you're thinking in your head, are not that. They are a lot lower. And so one of the main takeaways I've gotten from this is like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, do it for the right reasons. And if you're trying to get rich, of course, that's one way to do it, but there are many other ways that you can do things like real estate investing or offering at least a service business versus e-commerce to get richer faster. So really ask yourself what you're after when you're getting into this stuff. Now, I'm at a state where the business must make X revenue and X profit to stay cash flow positive and continue scaling. And if a few months go by where we don't do that, we could go out of business. And so I'm at the beginning of that journey right now. And every single day I've had to become this non-arrogant, non-crazy adrenaline rushed founder who instead has to take, calculated risks and really obsess over every single piece of content we put out, every single customer service ticket, every single inventory purchase, every single out of stock item, and just really become this like octopus of an entrepreneur. By no means am I having 3-hour work weeks and doing all these fun things. And of course, there's still time for exercising and girlfriends, and we'll get into that in a sec. But in reality, having a business is not an easy task when things get rough, and that's how it's going to be for most people right now. So if you are watching this video and that you are also struggling or thinking of starting, please drop the ego, realize that you are not alone, and please understand that what had happened in 2021 and a bit of 2022 in terms of e-commerce had not happened for decades and years and across the world, etc. Like, what we experienced was not common, and I thought it was common because that's how I was brought into entrepreneurship and really saw success. But it set me up for failure, and now I have to dig myself out of this thing and grind even harder than I was before. And it's just real. This is the real truth. And so you're gonna see people online posting $1 million months and this and that, and of course you can get lucky, make a quick buck, etc. Like, kudos to you. Everyone's done that at one point in their life. But if you plan to be an entrepreneur for the decades to come, like years and years and years and years of making your own money and supporting yourself and building an empire and having a family, it's not gonna be through some stupid Facebook ad or day trading thing. Like, you have to really think about consistently how you're gonna do this and obsess over it and put like the best quality of work out every single day, or else you're just toast. And someone else who's over there, who's not on YouTube like me, who has their head down working every single day, is just gonna smoke you, right? It's actually quite scary. So I hope this is motivational, and I think the biggest takeaway here is the mind, right? This entire video was created to train your mind and kind of help you think things through a little differently than before. Like I said, it's always good to have a bit of arrogance and confidence and think you're the next Mark Zuckerberg, but then you also have to realize on the inverse side that you ain't worth shit, you're not owed anything, and nothing in entrepreneurship is ever going to be handed to you very often. So now and then you might get a handout, someone might lend you some money, someone might whatever, but like consistently year over year over year, that cannot be your strategy. You cannot be reliant on others. Your business plan cannot have any hope in it, or else you are set up to fail. And so find someone that you can talk to about all this and just listen. I have a really amazing girlfriend who can just sit there and listen to all my problems and really just like be a soundboard. And as an entrepreneur, especially as a young man, you cannot sit alone in your room and just have all these things in your head. You need to tell it to somebody. If it's like the worst case scenario, go on to character.ai, go to the therapist like Character and talk there, just so you can type out or like really like talk out what problems you're going through. Because in most cases, when you're going through something really crazy in your business or personal life, wherever, going for a walk, going for a run, going to work out is actually the better solution to find the answers to your problem than just sitting there and trying to type it out and like just figure it out in the weeds. Like, that's usually not how it happens. And so in closing, being an entrepreneur is very hard. And as everyone has said, the things that you see online are definitely not true. There is a lot of room to succeed, and there is a lot of money out there for you to make, but it will not be handed to you, and by no means is it an easy process. If you work hard long enough and put out great quality products or great quality content, or whatever you do, cut lawns, shovel driveways, sell stupid freaking like wooden fireplaces, whatever it may be, if you are the best at it, you will eventually be rewarded. And that's my closing note here. So if you have questions or you're going through anything bad with e-commerce and you want someone to talk to, I'm your guy. Drop it in the comments. And yeah, best of luck in 2023, and I'll see you guys in the next video.